How I got married to Mr. Amos. I sat in our bedroom, one of the two I shared with my three younger brothers, Sammy 10 years old, Tobo 7 and Laurie 5. With tears streaming down my face, reciting the conversation I just had with my parents, more like them telling me about my future and me trying to get out of it. Here I was, 18 years old and being told that I am to marry a 45-year-old Mr. Amos from 2 streets away. He was known as the bachelor and the womanizer in the community, and somehow, to save my father from the debt he owed him, I was to marry him. My father Joseph has been a gambler since he lost his job as a railway track worker 2 years ago, due to an injury to his knee which left him with a limp. Since he stopped working, he has drowned himself and the whole family in debt. With his injury insurance money, even though it wasn't much, he built us a 3-roomed house where I shared the room with my 3 brothers, and the other is their bedroom and the kitchen. No bathroom, no living room, and the kitchen served all purposes as dining and social room where visitors were also welcomed. With the drinking, probably from the depression of losing his job, and the gambling, he hasn't been able to keep a job for longer than a week and ended borrowing money from anyone willing to give. I don't even know how I ended up being the payment for whatever he owed. While other young ladies get married out of love with a bride price of cattle, sheep, goats and gifts, my bride price happened to be a gambling debt. My mother Anna on the other hand sold snacks at the primary school during break, and that's how the family was getting on day by day. About a year ago she got mugged on her way back from the school and lost the little money she had made. That evening, I watched her making soup and the leftover rice for the evening dinner. Seeing her not eating, it dawned on me that there wasn't enough for all of us, including my father who was just sitting around listening to the radio. I pretended that I wasn't hungry, ate 2 spoons of the rice with the watery soup that lacked flavor, due to being over-diluted, and left the food. I had eaten at the school feeding scheme at lunch, so I was not hungry, but I felt sorry for my mother. She had a vegetable garden, but vegetables were not yet ready for harvest. During harvest time we had different types of vegetables, potatoes and sweet potatoes, butternut, spinach, beans, corn, cabbage, carrots, onions and tomatoes. She even sold some of the vegetables to make some money. My mother also did laundry at 2 families weekly to have some money for food and electricity. I also worked at Mrs. Lito's house on Fridays, cleaning her house, and she would pay me and sometimes give me leftover food to take home as it'd go to waste. She was a nurse in the local hospital, and her daughter was married to a man from England and moved with him to his home country. Mr. Amos had moved to our village with his wife whom he lost a year later during childbirth, and he had been a widower and a bachelor since I was 7 years old. He worked in a bank in town about 30 kilometers away and loaned money to people in the village with a high interest. My father was also one of his victims, except he didn't have money to repay Mr. Amos since he didn't work, so he put a wager on his 18-year-old daughter. I had just finished my 12th grade exams, with dreams to go and study medicine at the University of the North in the following year. With no money, my teachers had encouraged me to apply anyway, and I had used the school address instead of the home address because I knew my father was never going to allow me to go to university. Cleaning Mrs. Lito's house was an income needed at home, which he often borrowed to buy a beer. I contributed to food and buying electricity. I used some of the money I had saved to apply to university, even though I had no idea where the money for fees or even accommodation would come from. My teacher had encouraged everyone to apply for university even though most of us knew we had no chance of going, no money for fees, books, accommodations, etc. Some of my classmates already have kids and others are already arranged to get married or even looking at supermarket jobs and cleaning. My friend Mina had also encouraged me to apply, in case I get a bursary or sponsorship, which we applied for. Schools have closed for the end of the year, and I was waiting for results, the key to a door I may never open. I had been accepted to university even though I have no plans of going, and I didn't even bother to tell my parents. My 11th grade marks were good enough to get me accepted in the 7-year program to become a doctor. A dream I had since my father instilled in me some 10 years ago. The dream has become my own. I haven't shared the news of my acceptance with anyone, not even my mother. Telling her would be like telling my father, whom I know would not accept, as he saw me as a meal ticket. We sat in the kitchen that evening, after dinner, when the boys excused themselves to go to bed, or to play one more time in the bedroom. I stayed to wash the dinner dishes, and that's when I saw them changing looks. My parents with suspicious eyes conversation, and my mother asked me to sit so we could talk. I felt the panic as I sat between them to listen to what they had to say. Your father has spoken to Mr. Amos, and we think it's best that you get married to him. This will save us from the debt that he owes him, and maybe we'll even negotiate for some livestock as part of the bride price. He is working well and will take good care of you. My mother looked down to hide the shame as she spoke. You never have to clean people's homes or wash clothes or even sell at schools like me. I felt my heartbeat in my throat, heat rising in my head and my legs shaking, palms sweating. No, I said, I will not marry Amos. He's old, and I'm a child. He's a scammer and he sleeps with all women in the village. And oh, by the end of that sentence my voice was shaking and I couldn't breathe. My chest tightened and I felt like I was going to faint. Neil, you will marry him, my father said, cutting me while I tried to catch my breath. We are not asking, we are telling you. And it is my responsibility as your father to make sure you marry a man who will provide for you and give you a good home, he said, his eyes piercing through mine as I wiped tears from my face. I don't love him, I don't even like him, and he's old. He's your age, Papa, I said, as tears flooded my eyes. My mom touched my shoulder and said softly, love will grow and age doesn't mean anything. You'll grow to love him, she spoke, rubbing my shoulder, which instead of making me feel better, made me angry. And I lashed out at her, Mama, you chose him, for yourself, pointing at my father. You loved each other, and Mama is only 5 years younger. That man is an old man, he is older than you, Mama, and you want me to marry him? Now looking between my father. Why am I being punished for your sins? My father looked at me with anger. You are not going to disrespect me, pointing your finger at me, he said, pointing back at me, and standing up to face me. The moment I lost all the respect I had left for him, but my heart hurt as I remembered being my father's little girl, him carrying me on his shoulders as he used to sing for me and tell me stories of how he didn't like school and how I should get educated and be the first doctor in their family. I stood up as my father towered over me, talking in my face and not acknowledging his wrongs in the whole situation. What happened to me being the first doctor in the family? I want to go to university, I spoke through the tears and the fear that he might strike me, but I continued to speak. You told me I could be anything I want to go to university, I have dreams for my life, I want to choose who I want to marry, I spoke now crying, and my mother hasn't raised her head to look at me. I could feel her sadness in the air and maybe the fear of opposing him or siding with me. They had moved from equals to boss and follower over the years, her not laughing like she used to, deep sadness in her eyes. I saw her wiping a tear that dropped to the top of her skirt. She was crying. Perhaps she was being forced to take his side, or she was just ashamed. Now that just broke my heart and made me cry more. For a minute I felt sorry for her. Papa, please, I'll find a job and we will pay Mr. Amos. Just don't make me marry him. Now I was begging my father. Please don't make me marry him. I'll get a job. I will study part-time or do night classes. Please. He started to walk out of the house, as he searched his pockets for a cigarette. I stood there hoping my mother would stand up for me. Instead, she just looked down. Mama, please, talk to him. I sat back down next to her and begged. She instead stood up and started packing the dishes. I marched out of the kitchen to my room where I sat on the bed, wiped my eyes and started thinking. Perhaps I could run away. To my aunt, my father's sister or my grandmother, who is basically my father's twin and would probably bring me back. She'd do anything to protect her son, including blaming my mother for my father working at the railway, saying that she trapped him with a baby. My mother's family on the other were well off and disowned her when she decided to leave school and marry a poor man. Perhaps that's why she wants me to marry a rich old man. My thoughts flooded my mind as I tried to sleep. My parents, on the other hand, had a long, loud conversation through the night, probably fighting over this decision to marry me to Mr. Amos. Even though I couldn't hear the discussion, in my heart I was hoping my mother was fighting for me. Morning came before I even realized that I fell asleep. Before I could even get out of bed, my father knocked on my door. Wake up, the visitors will be here soon. While I was processing what I had just heard, my mother opened and came in the door. Boys, go help your father in the garden. She sat next to me on the bed as the boys left the room. Neo, I am sorry that this is happening, but it's the only way. Please wake up, Bath, pack your bags. Mr. Amos will be here soon to get you. I kept quiet, listening to her poor apology. But when you get there, be good, behave, respect him, do what he wants and make him happy. Be a good wife. I started crying again. I tried speaking but words faded in the air and only a murmur came out in between the sobs. She pulled me into a forced cold embrace and left the room. For the first time I didn't recognize the cold woman who just held me. She was withdrawn and for a second I felt pity for her. What happened to my mother, that sweet hard-working woman who does everything despite her poor husband who is failing as a husband, leader and father? I sat on the bed, thoughts flooding through my head. I had never pictured myself as a wife. I am a child, for heaven's sake. I thought. What do I even pack? My clothes wouldn't fill any bag we had. I haven't had new clothes in a long while, except some that were donated by Mrs. Leto, which belonged to her daughter. I started packing, uncontrollable tears falling, felt like I was being exiled or sentenced to prison. I basically floated through the morning. Mr. Amos arrived just before noon, in his red car, and I could imagine neighbors peeking through curtains to see what he was doing in our house, or maybe my mother has already told the neighbors and they were peeking to see me walking shamefully with Mr. Amos. I was about to be Mrs. Amos. I told myself I will never sign the marriage certificate and will do anything to make sure I don't have a child with Mr. Amos. That thought made me want to throw up. 18 years old and I'm thinking about having children with Mr. Amos. My mother came into the room, took a shawl and covered my head and face. He's not supposed to see your face, she said, as if I cared about tradition at that point. As if tradition meant anything to anyone in the family. Where were the uncles who negotiate bride price? Where were Mr. Amos's family? This should be illegal, I thought as I walked with my head covered. Walking into the kitchen, I could see his feet as I sat on the cold cement floor. His shiny pointy shoes and smell his filled the room, some expensive cologne I presumed. My father didn't even waste time. He spoke. Here she is, my daughter Neo, as our agreement. Neo, please go and increase the Moiser family. I didn't even know his surname was Moiser, everyone just knew him as Mr. Amos. I actually thought I was about to become Mrs. Amos. The thought faded quickly as my father continued with his speech, which meant nothing to me. You are now Mrs. Moiser, go and be a blessing to the Moiser family. We wish you all the best. I couldn't control the tears that kept on flowing. My thoughts drifted away again. I didn't even talk to my brothers. I am sure they are confused, running around outside, innocently not knowing that they are about to lose a sister, that their sister is being sold for a gambling debt. I felt sad. I will still see them, but it will not be the same. Neo, you are a woman now, you must respect your husband, follow his leadership and be a good wife to him. My mother said. After what felt like a moment of silence, Amos spoke. Thank you for your wife, I promise I'll take care of her, said Mr. Amos with an unfamiliar voice sounding of arrogance and pride. My mother tapped my shoulder and asked, do you have anything to say? Before she could finish, my father interrupted her. She doesn't have to say anything, he said in a whisper that I could hear clearly. He was afraid I would fight or reject what was being discussed. They stood up and my mother helped me up while the man besides me picked up my bags. And we started walking out. I moved closer to my mother and whispered, I want to say bye to my brothers. My father interrupted that too, you'll still see them, Mose, goodbye for what? They basically dragged me into Mr. Amos' car. I cried bitterly as the car drove off. Mr. Amos heard me sobbing and spoke, hey, don't cry, your father and I had an agreement. You know, for the money he owed me, I was generous. I even agreed to give him 2 sheep and 2 goats. At least it won't look like I took you for nothing. So it was an exchange. In my mind I kept saying, I didn't agree to any of this, I didn't sign any documents, I am not married to this man, this is temporary, one day I will be free, I kept repeating the thoughts to myself. Life with Mr. Amos. Arriving at Mr. Amos's house was like being a guest, which I was, in a foreign place, yet a kilometer from my home. I grabbed my bags and sat in his kitchen. There is food in the kitchen, you can cook, if you need anything, let me know. He spoke, then picked up my bags and walked into one of the rooms. I uncovered the shawl from my face and looked around. Being in his house for the first time. His house was a modern design 3-bedroom house with a garage, bathrooms with running water, unlike my home where we used buckets for bathing, and it had a kitchen and a living room with a big TV. His furniture was also modern but unmatched, for a bachelor. He had lived on his own for 11 years, through grief for his wife and child and through all the women we saw coming in and out of that house. I took a deep breath, wiping my now dried eyes which felt swollen and heavy. I looked around to find where the kitchen was and seeing that he had disappeared behind the door. It was afternoon and I hadn't eaten anything since the terrible morning I had. I looked in the fridge and it was packed with groceries, and I started opening cupboards looking for utensils, dishes and pots. There were patches of dust, showing that he tried cleaning, but not thoroughly after a long time. I understood though, Mr. Amos lived alone, he was without a wife or someone to clean his house. Not sure what to feed my rumbling stomach, I looked at different meats filling the freezer and didn't know what to do. We never had variety of meats to choose from. At home, it was mostly vegetables and the meat my mother would bring when she goes to town, for that day to eat. I picked up a banana and turned to find Mr. Amos had changed his clothes and was staring at me, holding a banana I was about to eat. You can make chicken and rice, I bought everything last night, not sure what to expect. He said, looking away from me, as if I didn't see him analyzing my body. I felt uncomfortable the way he looked at me. Okay, I answered, as I walked back to the chair. He came to sit opposite me at the table, and looked at me. I expect dinner at 6 p.m. every day. You can make anything, but it must be balanced, starch, protein and vegetables. I expect you to clean, cook and wash clothes. I work Monday to Saturday, so you will be alone the whole day. I expect a clean house, must show that there is a woman around here. Breakfast at 7 a.m. every day, before I go to work, and leftover food for my lunch box. So make enough when you make dinner. If you need anything, let me know. He said, opening one of the 4 books that were piled on the table with page markers in them. He started talking again. There are 3 bedrooms, but as my wife, you will share my bedroom with me, unless when you are having those days of the month, then you can sleep in the guest bedroom. The other room was supposed to be for the beach. He paused. I'll clear it up. I use it as a study for my other work. I saw him hiding some kind of emotion. I nodded and stood up to in the kitchen and opening the fridge. My thoughts were stuck on the horror of sharing a bedroom with him. I didn't even think this far. I mean, it had been hours since the news of marrying this man were broken to me, and here I was in his house, acting wife. Do I even call him Mr. Amos, or just Amos, or those romantic things couples call each other? I am 18, I am still a child. What am I doing here, acting wife? After a few minutes he stood and walked to the outside. I stood in the kitchen, breathing out heavily. I didn't even realize I was holding my breath the whole time. I have to pretend it's that time of the month, or just ask to sleep in the guest bedroom until I'm comfortable, I thought to myself as I started cooking. By sunset I was long done, served his food and covered it on the table. I didn't want to get out to call him. I didn't want to be seen by his neighbors. Whatever the rumors going around already. I sat there quietly, missing the noisy boys, missing playing with my brothers. I am sure they are at home all confused. I grabbed one of the books, Aikwe Armor, The Beautiful Ones Are Not Yet Born. I read the title slowly. One of the books from the table and opened the first page and started to read. Footsteps approached and Mr. Amos came in the house, left the dirty boots at the door and came to sit by the table. I was not even reading, just looking at the first page and avoiding his gaze. He sat at the table and I looked at the clock ticking in the kitchen. I then stood up to bring him water to wash his hands and as he uncovered the food to eat. I didn't know how much food to serve, I said as he stared at the food, also fearing how it'd taste. I had eaten already and I know I am a basic cook, learned from my mother and I cooked a lot in her absence. Smells good, I haven't had a good meal in a while. He started eating and I was holding my breath again. Breathe, breath, said as he took his first bite, like I needed approval. I've never cooked for anyone before, except my family, I said. Relax, the food is good, he said and I could feel my shoulders dropping from relief. I started looking back at the book, stealing glances at him but never really looking at him. I was gathering the courage to speak. May I please sleep in the guest bedroom until I'm comfortable? I'm still digesting the whole situation, I said with a shaky voice, bracing myself for the response I was about to receive. Relax, he said. I understand, you can use the guest bedroom until you are comfortable. I'm not a monster, I wanted you to know what I expect from you as a wife. Thank you, I said, looking at the book and letting him finish eating. Thank God he changed the subject. It's a good book, he spoke as he swallowed. About corruption and politicians versus the poor and the hard-working middle class. I didn't expect him to talk about to me like an equal. I expected instructions and bossing. Instead he was just human. I don't even know what I expected. I didn't want to get married. I wanted to go to university. I worked hard and my marks were good. I looked down and said sadly, fighting the tears that threatened to fall. What did you want to study? I wanted to study medicine, I said, keeping the rest to myself. The results are coming out in 2 weeks. Doesn't matter anymore, I said, wiping a tear. He kept quiet, got up, walked to the kitchen to wash his hands and locked the door. He grabbed the book he opened earlier and walked to his bedroom. You can switch off, good night, he said just before closing the door behind him. I sat there for another 10 minutes before starting to clean up the kitchen and packed his lunchbox. I then went to the bedroom. It was a modest room, a bed that looked like it hadn't been used in years. I started by cleaning the room and changing the sheets with the clean ones from the cupboard. Then I lied on the bed. Too quiet, Tabo and Sammy could be wrestling on the bed and sweet Laurie would just suck his left thumb and hold my hand while lying on the bed quietly. I sat there, picturing my brother. The silence was unusual and I finally fell asleep. The next morning I woke up early as usual from the school days and washed up quickly so I am not late to making breakfast for Mr. Amos before he left for work. I went into the kitchen and started preparing food and packed his lunchbox for work. He came in a navy blue and a green tie. Morning. I hope you slept well, he said as he bit through the toast and eggs I made and a cup of coffee. I slept well, I responded while cleaning up the kitchen. He left and I sat there. I honestly didn't want to be seen, so I hesitated cleaning the outside of the house. I started cleaning the inside of the house, wiping the dust and removing the spider webs that sat in corners, presumably for years. I also washed the bedding that I changed the night before. It was also refreshing being in a quiet place, but I also wished I could get someone to talk to, maybe visit Mina sometimes. It was quiet and I made sure I was covered when I went outside. I had never been in Mr. Amos's yard till now that I lived here. It was weird and I tried avoiding anyone who could see me. I felt like I could just go home to my parents, but I was angry with them. I didn't want to see or talk to them. Not after they traded me and didn't even give me a chance to live my own life. I deeply wished I could run away, but I didn't want my father to be hurt or killed, after all the rumors we heard of people disappearing or being found dead when they couldn't pay Mr. Amos. Although sitting with him last night felt like he wasn't the same person we heard rumors about. He sounded like a normal person, maybe cold, but human. The deep thoughts kept me working through the morning. Around noon I started preparing for dinner and made sure that when Amos came back he'd find food ready. The following 2 weeks went quietly. It was the longest and loneliest time of my life. I hadn't gone to clean Mrs. Leto's house. On the Thursday night before of my first week here he told me that I cannot continue cleaning houses. That was embarrassing to him and he had an image to maintain. It was the night before the results when I asked to go to the school to get my results the next day and he agreed. The following morning I got ready the same time as he did and went to the school to get my results. Mina came to hug me. How are you? I saw your brother last week at the shop and asked him where you were, she said, showing sadness in her face. I didn't want to believe what he said, but I also heard the ladies at the shop whispering when he left that they married you to Mr. Amos and how you had to pay for your father's debts. Tears welled in my eyes. Then she hugged me. "How are you?" Mina was a very mature girl, and my best friend. "Are you okay? Is he hurting you?" I wiped my tears. "I'm fine, it's okay, he's not as bad as I thought. We don't talk much, I cook and clean and he's gone the whole day for work." She smiled a little. She looked at me with questioning eyes. "So you and him?" Laughter burst through me, with wet cheeks. I definitely miss my friend and it was refreshing having my best friend here to talk to. "No, I sleep in the other room." I told him I'm not ready, I said, and I could see the relief on her face. "So university? I mean you got accepted, you could run and apply for student accommodation and get a night or weekend job," she said, looking serious. Mina was always the friend a girl needed. She had the fun side and the serious side. "Let's just get the results, we'll see." I hoped I had bad results so I don't have that disappointment of not going to study further. Mina had also been accepted to University of the North and we had plans of sharing accommodation and her father had encouraged her to apply and go and build a life for herself. I secretly wished her father was like mine. When the results were called out, I was the second best student in my class. 2 As, 2 BS and 3 CS. My marks were really good and I qualified for university. But Mr. Amos had no plans of letting me go anywhere. I didn't even think twice. The teachers congratulated me, my classmates celebrated and there I was, just floating through, hiding the sadness and the ache in my heart. I also received certificates with my results. After the celebrations, the crowds dispersed. I thought the whole attention was going to be on my and marriage situation, but everyone was invested in their own business. After the crowd dispersed, the principal Mr. Koloti called me to his office. "Neo, you did very well and I remembered that you wanted to study medicine. I know you got accepted at the North, but I have forms here for students who want to study medicine in Cuba. The Department of Health is giving scholarships to students to study there. Everything is covered including visits home, pocket money, food, books, accommodation, everything. If you are interested, please fill in the forms and I will submit them tomorrow when I pass by their offices." He looked at my sad face. "Perhaps an opportunity to get away," he said. "I heard that you have a situation." "I don't know, Mr. Amos." I lost my words a little. "He won't let me go. My father." I lost my words again. Look, children shouldn't be responsible for their parents' decisions. This is an opportunity to a future and a chance to get away, and this opportunity doesn't come often. I would say, take it, they will figure themselves out," he said, seriously looking in my face and somehow sounded like he was begging me to take the opportunity. I sat down on the chair in front of him, thinking hard and weighing my options. An opportunity of a lifetime, Miss Maisha. Or it's Mrs. Amos now. Hearing him call me Mrs. Amos made me sick to my stomach. I took the pen and started filling the forms. "I don't have a passport," I said to him. "I can help you with that. This is your future, and you don't want to regret for the rest of your life, missing this opportunity," he said as I continued filling the forms. "Take one morning and go to Home Affairs. You are 18 years old now, you don't need permission from anyone. And it's not expensive. You can put the school address there. I will send a student to your house if anything is needed," he said. "I will tell Mr. Amos that you wanted me to help you with tutoring. I hope he won't refuse, I said, looking down. I was ashamed, plotting. Thank you for everything, I said as I stood to walk and leave, and we shook hands. I found Mina waiting for me outside. Let's go. What was that about? I wasn't sure if I should tell her, but I did. I told him about the scholarship opportunity. I don't even think I'll get it. I mean, the whole country will be applying, students with better marks and passports. Mina held my hands as we talked, and we changed to topic, listening to her going on about leaving for the north in 2 days and her father accompanying her. Everything she mentioned her father, it felt like a dagger in my heart, his support and encouragement she was receiving. How she was going to miss her parents and big brother and younger sister. I didn't say much except that I miss my brothers and how we used to sing at night. We walked to my home. I stood outside the gate, and when Laurie saw me, he came running and hugged me. Sammy, Thabo, Ceci is here, he shouted, and Thabo and Sammy came running too. My mother's bedroom curtain moved. I saw a figure behind it. As I stood there hugging and talking to my brothers, with no intentions of going in to talk to my mother or father, my mother walked out of the door and stood there, looking at us. After I hugged my brothers goodbye again, I started walking away, to Mr. Amos's house. My home now, I thought, even though it sounded foreign even in my mind. Seeing my mother made my heart sore, but it could never erase the disappointment I was feeling. The mother that sold me for debt and 2 sheep and goats. 2 days later, after Amos took a taxi to go to town, I went to the Home Affairs and applied for a passport, which was a very easy process to do, and passed the shops to buy some lady items with the last of my cleaning savings from Mrs. Leto. It was weird being away from the village, in a place where no one knew who I was and no chances of meeting anyone who knew me. I imagined that's what Cuba would feel like, except there I would not be sneaking around. I will be a student, building a future like everyone who would be there with me. That evening over dinner, I told Mr. Amos that I went to town to buy some woman items, didn't mention the passport. He was unhappy that I could have gone with him and returned with him, that I didn't ask him for money. I used the last of my savings from the cleaning, Mrs. Leto. I told you to tell me if you need anything. I could have bought those things for you, he said, with a bit of anger I didn't understand. I'm sorry, I will ask next time, I said, looking down and fearing a little. After 2 weeks, when the schools had opened and the children were back in school, one Wednesday afternoon I received a letter from one of the neighbor's kids, after school. It was from the principal. Good day, Neo. Please come to the school tomorrow, we can talk about that opportunity. Regards, Principal Coloti. I stared at the letter, my heart racing. In the evening I told Mr. Amos, I got a letter from the school. The principal asked me if I can be a tutor for grade 12. I think it would help me make my own money, maybe even become an assistant teacher. He asked that I come talk to him tomorrow. My heart was beating fast as I was lying through my teeth. I'm working for both of us and I can buy you anything you want. What do you want a job for? He said, looking straight at my face. It felt like he could smell the lies coming out of my mouth. I get bored during the day, and I would like to do something for myself. Make my own little money, then I don't have to ask for money every time, I said, but deep inside I feared that he'd refuse. So, what time would you be home if you are turning? When are you going to clean and cook? He asked, staring at me. For a second I started to believe my own lies. The tutors usually work between 1 and 3, it's just 2 hours a day, Monday to Thursday, I'll have the mornings to clean and do laundry and afternoons to cook. He looked at me. I hope I don't regret this, he said. The excitement in me brought a smile to my face. Thank you. The next morning I was too excited, and by midday I was at the school. Principal Coloti is happy to see me. I didn't think you'd come. Thank you. I'll just to the point. There is an interview scheduled for 2 weeks from now on Monday for the scholarship. It's in Johannesburg. Disappointment flushed through me. That's 4 hours away. I can't go. I already lied and said that this was about tutoring. I spoke with a shaky voice. Tears piercing my eyes. We'll figure something out, don't worry. I walked back home trying to figure out how I'd get to Johannesburg. Plotting became my daily thoughts. The passport didn't take long, and I went to town, picked it up and returned without a glitch. The principal has asked me to accompany the science students to a science expo in Johannesburg next week Monday, I said Thursday evening after a week of thinking and a meeting with Principal Coloti. Amos looked at me, with a sarcastic calculating smile. I knew I was going to regret accepting this. His jaw tightened, and I swear I saw him cursing under his breath. We are just going Monday morning and returning that evening. I said, you can tutor, now you are asking for more, irritation all over his face. So, you are putting me on the spot here. If I refuse, I look like the bad guy. I think I gave you too much freedom. He said, definitely irritated. Fine, but make sure you leave the house clean, and better not return here after dark. He made the puss sound with his mouth as he stood up from the eating table and walked outside. Relief washed over me, as I dropped my shoulders. I didn't even realize that I was holding my breath. I was excited to have succeeded. The next day I went to talk to Principal Coloti. The Monday of the trip I woke up very early, left the house before Amos even woke up. I left breakfast for him on the table and walked to the school, and Principal Coloti met me just before the school gate. It was a long drive. He spoke about potential high performance for the new year at the school. How the school would be recognized if one of his students went to Cuba. His dreams for young people, how he wants to change lives. Encouraged me never to give up. He never asked about my marriage situation or how things were going. Arriving in Johannesburg and going to the meeting location, I found about 10 students. We gathered in a hall and were told that we got the scholarships and would be leaving for Cuba in 4 weeks. My heart beat fast with excitement and anxiety. I thought I was coming for an interview, I whispered to Principal, who was sitting next to me. He was excited too, but now I was anxious about what comes next. The day went very well. I met other students going on the trip. They gave us details of the trip and when and where we'd meet at the airport, the times of the flights and all the trip details. My dreams were coming true. I could not believe what was happening. The drive that evening was of happiness and excitement. I got home just after dark. I found Amos sitting at the table, looking angry. I sat down at my usual spot. I didn't have anything with me. I left everything with Principal Coloti. Looking me right in my face, he finally spoke. How was the trip? He looked like he knew something I didn't know. It went well, I replied. It's very far, I'm even tired. I didn't want to speak much, don't want to confuse or implicate myself. So, how many students went? Where exactly? He asked, looking right in my face. Something in my chest shifted. I got scared. It was 3 students, We went to the Science Expo at the University of Johannesburg. He looked at me. Is that so? Really looking at me because I went to your school? The teachers knew nothing about this trip. No students went to Joburg. Apparently principal also went to Johannesburg. So, think again before you answer. You and that old man went to Joburg, right? My wife went to Joburg with Koloti. To do what? I wonder. I was told you came to the school several times, and no, you are not a tutor, so tell me what you were doing with Koloti in his office all those days, and now you went to Johannesburg together. To do what? He stood up and moved to where I was sitting. I was shaking with fear, because I didn't have an answer for him. He was. Before I could finish the sentence, he stroked my face so hard, my ear rang, my eye closed and burned. Are you going to lie to me again? He shouted. I heard him from a distance, even though he was standing right next to me. The pain and the realization that he just hit me down on me, and I started to sob. The pain in my neck, my face was burning, and my ringing ear, and my eye felt to become heavier. I couldn't see in it either. Something was dripping from my mouth and my nose. I thought I was dreaming. Answer me. I knew that marrying a little girl was going to end in tears. I knew it. Hit the table, which got me startled. He started pacing up and down the kitchen. I went for an interview in Johannesburg for a bursary to study teaching. I was going to ask you after I got the bursary. I was going to study part-time. I spoke through the tears. Of course I lied. I wouldn't want to ruin my chances of getting away. Then I wiped my nose with the back of my hand, only to notice that I was bleeding. In the mouth and the nose. I tried to stand, but I lost my balance and fell back in the chair. The shirt I was wearing already had drops of blood. He walked outside, shutting the door hard, and startled me again. I stayed there, crying and holding my face where it hurt. No one has ever hit me that hard that my eye closed and my ear rang. I stood again and went to the bedroom. I looked in the mirror, and I didn't even recognize myself. My eye was closed shut and my left side of my face was swollen. My lip was cut, and my nose was blocked. I went to the bathroom and started to clean myself up. As I was busy, he came back in and came to the bathroom. I flinched when the door opens, praying that he doesn't hit me again. I knew you were going to humiliate me. You are just like your father. You lied to me, and you think I'll let you go to school now? Never. You are going to stay here. You are not going anywhere anymore. No more leaving this house. And from now on, you are sleeping in my bed. He started walking away. You are my wife after all. He shouted as he walked away. My short-lived celebration of Cuba turned into a tragedy. I sat in that bathroom for what felt like hours, afraid to look myself in the mirror again. I was still crying. My nose hurt, my eye hurt, the whole side of my face hurt. My eye was shut, and I was in so much pain. I needed painkillers, but I wasn't going to dare look in his bathroom. I finally dragged myself to go clean the kitchen and found him sitting on the chair in the kitchen, looking down with his hands on each side of his face. You made me do this, he said. You lied to me, he said, breaking heavily. I deeply hoped he would apologize, but I knew that was not going to happen. I kept quiet and continued to clean up the kitchen. He walked to the bedroom and came back with 2 painkiller tablets and put them next to the sink. Drink that, he went back to his chair. I drank those pills. Inside I felt like I was dying, hollow and empty. I kept sobbing while cleaning up and doing as slow as possible, hoping he would leave and go to bed without me. And yet he waited. As soon as I finished, he stood up, switching off the lights and dragging me by the hand to his bedroom. He got in, closed the door and locked it. He put the key in his pocket and started taking off his clothes. I turned to look away and he laughed. An empty laugh. I just stood there, and when he finished, he got in the sheets and switched off the lights, leaving me standing by the door. I stood there for long a while, then decided I was going to sleep on the floor. I was still in shock as I lied on the floor carpet, in fetus position, sobbing as I cried myself to sleep. My side of the face was in so much pain, and I even forgot the kind of day I had. I was never going to tell him the truth. I eventually fell asleep, and in the middle of the night, I woke up to Amos picking me up from the floor and putting me on the bed. I stayed in that fetus position, didn't move an inch. He then covered my cold body with a blanket and went back to sleep. The pain in my ear reminded me of where I was and why I was there. I started to sob again. He stayed still next to me and listened to me crying. The next morning, I woke up to an empty house. He left before I woke up, and I found the kitchen door locked. I was locked in the house, like a prisoner. He said that I will never go anywhere, but I didn't know he meant leaving the house. I went to the bathroom to look myself in the mirror and wash my face. The swelling on my eye was better than last night, but a blue circle around my eye and on my lip. I didn't recognize the girl in the mirror. I looked like I had been in a car accident. I went to look for painkillers in his bathroom and took 2 again. I was a prisoner, and I was beat up. Perhaps he locked me in so that I cannot go to the police, or so people cannot see what he has done to me. How was I going to leave this house? I could never leave the house, or go to Cuba, a sad realization that got a tear out of me. My life was over, I thought. The routine of cooking and cleaning continued, and me sleeping next to him the following days. That Friday night he came home drunk, barely standing straight, and he found me in bed already. I had waited and left his food covered in the usual spot for him to eat. He came around midnight, so drunk. He came in the bedroom, took off his clothes and got in bed. I stayed still, pretending I couldn't hear him. He started to touch me, hands on my breast, and I sat still, praying, "Oh God, please don't let this happen." I knew what was happening. At least I went to get an IUD, which Mina had advised me to get on that day of the results when we walked home. She had had the contraceptive talk with her mother, and she knew all about it. She had told me, "You don't want a baby with that old crook. The IUD is the best one out there. It sits in your body for 5 years, in case he tries to get you pregnant." On the day I went to do my passport, I went to the clinic in town after and did it. It was uncomfortable then, as someone who had never engaged in any activities, but I persevered through it to save myself. "Please stop," I said softly as he kept circling his fingers around my nipple and kept moving closer. "You are drunk, please," I said, fearing what was happening. "You are my wife after all," he said as he pulled my pants down. I tried to refuse and pull away, but he was too strong. He held my hands and got on top of me. I started begging and crying, and he continued to have his way with me. After finishing, he turned to his side of the bed and snored within seconds. I was in so much pain and crying. Why was this happening to me? What did I do to deserve this? I scooted back into fetus position as I cried myself to sleep. In the morning, I woke up to Amos sitting on the edge of the bed, naked, his hands on his head. He turned to look at me, still naked in bed with a fading blue eye and a healing lip. Naked but covered in the sheet that covered the bed, I closed my eyes, begging the tears not to fall. "What happened here last night?" he asked with confusion in his voice. I kept quiet, eyes still closed, but I felt a tear cross over my nose bridge. I kept quiet. He pulled the sheet, exposing my naked body and the blood stains that were on the bed. I opened my eyes to look, but I found him horrified as he examined the bed and looked at me. I said, "What happened?" He repeated, "You were drunk and you..." I couldn't finish the sentence that followed as I cried. "No, I didn't." No, he didn't finish the sentence, shock in some kind of disbelief. He stood up, exposing himself and holding his hands on his head. He then walked to the bathroom and closed the door. I got up, took my clothes and walked to the other bathroom, pouring water for a bath. I sat in that bath water until the water got cold and I got out. I didn't make breakfast, I just went in the guest bedroom and lied in the bed, covering myself. I felt humiliated and abused. I felt dirty and ashamed. I had lost my virginity to a 45-year-old man. He raped me. I had accepted that it was going to happen sooner or later, but I didn't expect it to be this way. This was the worst week of my life. First, he closed my eye and ear, and now he has just taken the last thing I was proud of. I hated him. I felt that anger turning into danger. I started planning how I can hurt him. I need to get away from here. I will probably go live under a bridge somewhere. I need to get away from him. I need to find a way to get on that plane to Cuba. It's my only way out. Around noon, he knocked on the door and opened before I said anything. He put bread, juice, and 2 pills next to the bed where I was sleeping. Perhaps that was an apology or his way of showing remorse. Then he walked away. I stayed in that room the whole day and the whole day the next day. I only woke up to use the bathroom and to drink water. He hadn't said anything to me since he left bread and juice, and I hadn't made him food, cleaned or cooked. The following Monday morning I got up to make food. I was starving and he was gone to his work. I sat back in the chair to eat, and I heard footsteps on the outside of the house, then a knock on the door. "Neo. It's Koloti. Can we talk?" He spoke as he knocked on the door. I kept quiet. Stood still, not knowing what to do or say. He tried the door several times, which was locked. Then he knocked again. "I hope you are okay. I was worried when I didn't hear from you, and a teacher told me that your husband had come to the school." I thought quickly and grabbed a pen and a paper. "I can talk. I got in trouble for Johannesburg." I slid the paper under the door. I stood there by the door, listening quietly. I don't even know why I couldn't just talk to him. "I will come back. I hope you can still take that trip. I will come back soon." He spoke to the door and left. I sat by the door for what felt like hours, drifting through thoughts. I should write a letter to Koloti when he comes back. Plan my escape. How am I going to leave this house? I don't even have money, in case I need to run away and survive. His visit gave me courage. I got up, took a bath and started planning. I will get back into routine, cook, clean, wash clothes and ask to hang clothes outside, get him to trust me again. In the following week, I wrote a letter to Principal Koloti. I wrote another one to my parents, saying goodbye. I wrote another to my Sammy, who would read and share with my younger siblings. Mr. Amos relaxed a bit, but he still locked me in. He hung the laundry himself and did everything that required going outside, ensuring that I never left the house. 3 days before the trip, Kaloti came back to the house. After knocking and introducing himself, I spoke to him. "I have written a letter, you principal. I put the whole plan down. I will see you soon," I said, keeping the visit as short as possible, and I slid the letter under the door. I gave him my identity documents, my passport, the 2 letters I wrote to my mother and my brother that he'd deliver after I left. He took them and left. The following day, the plan was in action. I needed something that could spike a fever, or make me look like I was sick, while Amos was at work so he could find me sick. As a future doctor, I had learned a few things in school, and that was coming in handy. Just before Amos got back, I took a very hot bath, stayed in the water for too long that I felt dizzy and dehydrated. I then covered myself with blankets to keep the hot temperature in and wore warm clothes. I got in bed and waited. When the door opened, I was ready to act. I started making the pain sounds, and I had also eaten a lot, enough to make it easy to throw up, which I did as soon as he came in the house. It was just after sunset, the usual time before dinner. He came in the room when he heard vomit sounds, only to find me vomiting all over the floor and me sweating like a pig. "What's wrong?" he asked, looking concerned. "Something is wrong with me, I need a doctor." He didn't even touch me to feel the temperature. Instead, he grabbed my shoes and started putting them on me. We walked to the car. Looking back one more time, I am never coming back here. This is it. He drove me to our local hospital. I did the whole act, trying by all means to be convincing, blabbing my stomach to pain, moaning. I gagged a few times, which made him flinch. He definitely wouldn't want vomit in his car. We went to the emergency room, and he rushed me into the hospital. When we got in, the nurse came to examine me while he filled in the forms, and then they asked for a urine sample. "My moment, I thought, the toilet is this side," said the nurse, pointing in a direction. I looked, but truly looking for a way to get out of the hospital and run. We were on the ground floor, so a window or another door, or I'll hide under someone's bed until he can't find me and leave. I went into the toilet and sat in there for a little. The window was small, and I definitely wouldn't be able to get out easily. I didn't even pee or leave a sample, I was so nervous. I opened the door, looked around and saw an emergency exit. No sign of Amos nearby, so I started walking towards the emergency door. That 7 meters felt like a very long walk. Like the world was swallowing me. The moment I reached the door, I grabbed the handle, and it opened without a hustle. It opened. I ran. I ran so fast I passed the gate, and I kept on running. I thought I'd see Principal's car, but he wasn't there at the gate or near the parking, so I kept running. It was dark, and the guard at the gate saw me just as I passed. He was more focusing on the boot contents of the car he was checking out. As per my letter, Principal was supposed to wait for me outside the gate of the hospital, but when I didn't see his car, I ran to the bush on the side of the hospital, away from anyone seeing me, in the dark. I lingered in the bush, looking at the hospital gate. After a few minutes, in a distance I saw Amos running out of the hospital and looking around. He was with a nurse and a security guard. They walked around and spoke to the security at the gate. Amos kept walking around and calling my name several times. Just from how he was walking, I could see that he was angry. And from a distance a car parked at the gate. It was Principal. Wrong timing, because Amos saw him and walked right to the car. I was far enough but I could hear him shouting. "Why are you here? Where is she?" He charged towards Kaloti, but the security guards held him. It was like watching a movie unfold. Hiding in the bush and praying. Amos kept shouting while Principal stayed standing there. Kaloti walked around a little and drove out. I sat there, in the bush, in the dark, thirsty, for hours, praying for a miracle. After Principal left, Amos stood there for a while, walked around the parking with a guard, an hour or two, walking around, going up and down the hospital, and then a police car arrived. When the police got there, they spoke to the security, then to Amos, started searching around for a few minutes. They left eventually. I sat there for a while. I had no way of contacting Principal except going to his house, in the middle of the night, walking in the bush, a young woman, dehydrated. I started walking, an hour or so, I reached the houses. I walked towards Principal's house but as I turned the corner, I saw a red car parked a few houses from Principal's house. Amos was there, probably waiting to see if I would come. I turned, now lost. I was not going back, not to his house nor my home. My father would take me back to Amos. I thought where I'd go next. Mina. She was not there. She went to the north few weeks ago, but maybe her parents would help me. A risk I'm willing to take. I stayed walking towards Mina's house. I jumped the fence where she and I used to jump when we visited each other at night to hang out after I sneaked out of my house or when she walked me home. I went straight to her sister's window and I knocked twice and waited. Nothing happened, so I knocked again. Instead of her answering, the lights went on and the door unlocked. Mina's father walked out of the door with a hammer, followed by Ria holding a broom. "Who is it?" he asked, shouting at the darkness. I stepped out from behind the gas cylinder. "It's me," I said. I ran away. "Please help me." He looked at me, a little confused. "Neo," he said in shock. "What are you doing here? In the middle of the night?" "Come inside." I followed him inside and sat on the sofa in the dining room. "Can I have water please?" I asked and Ria rushed to get me water. Her father looked me up and down. I didn't realize how dirty I looked, thorns stuck to my pants and dust all over my legs and shoes. He watched me with concern as I galloped that glass of water. "Who is it?" Mina's mother walked in a gown and slippers. "Neo, what is happening?" Only then I took a breath and started to cry. They sat there, the mother rubbing my shoulder and the father just watching me. Ria looked horrified but she just kept quiet. I ran away. Principal was supposed to pick me up at the hospital but he came late and Amos fought him. I went to his house and he was parked outside his house. So I came here. "Please don't take me back." I spoke through the cries and no one understood anything I was saying. "I don't understand." "Calm down, breathe and explain again," said Mina's mother, hugging me. Poor child. I explained the whole plan to them and told them I was going to Cuba after tomorrow. Principal booked a hotel room for me next to the airport where I'd sleep tomorrow, then he'd take me at the airport where the department will welcome us. "Don't worry, I will go and talk to Principal tomorrow at the school and make sure that he knows where you are and you can plan from there," Mina's father said. "You can sleep in Mina's bed tonight," it said Mina's mother. Mina's mother walked me to the bedroom and gave me Mina's old pajamas to wear and sleep. This was familiar and felt like home. I slept, and in the morning, Ria left for school with her father. He spoke to principal, and around midday he came back. Found me on the sofa watching the television. I spoke to principal, and he gave me this envelope with your documents, including your passport and tickets, and hotel bookings. I offered to take you to the airport since Amos is watching Kaloti, in a car parked by the school gate. We can leave in an hour. Let me get ready. Thank you so much. I sat there, relief flowing through me, and tears of relief filled my eyes. Minutes later, Mina's mother came to the sofa with a bag and handed it to me. Inside is a few of Mina's clothes that you can wear and some money for you to buy a few things. It's not much, but we wish you all the best and go and build a future for yourself. She gave me the bag and hugged me. Thank you so much, I said as tears welled in my eyes again. I wrote a thank you letter to Principal Kaloti and left it with Ria. Thank you for helping me, I said as I stood and Ria hugged me. Her mother kissed her husband goodbye and we got in the car on our journey to Johannesburg. We checked in the hotel, and he booked a room next to mine. I'm not letting you out of my sight until I see you on that plane tomorrow, he said when I thanked him, thinking he was going to leave and go back home. That night, I cried once more, seeing my freedom right before me. It was over. Telling myself that the Lord has heard my cry. The Lord had answered my prayers. He has seen my tears. I slept, happy and looking to a future that was unfolding. The next morning, I woke up to get ready, and Mina's father drove us to the airport. When I arrived at the airport, I didn't have bags to check in, but the other students were there. It was my first time at the airport. It was very busy, people everywhere. There were cameras, the journalists from the media and the local news were there, interviewing some of the students and family members. Other students were there with their parents, family and friends, and in the corner of my eye, I saw him. My heart skipped and in a second, I couldn't breathe. I was having a panic attack, and just before I dropped, Mina's father caught me. I whispered, "He is here, Amos is here," I said, and suddenly a camera turned toward me. Oh no. This cannot be happening. How did he know where I was? He started walking toward me and I stepped backwards, shielding myself with Mina's father. "Neo, you are not going anywhere," he said as he came closer. Everyone turned to look at us, me standing behind Mina's father, Amos standing in front of him, and everyone just moved back, leaving us in the middle of a circle. "Get out of my way, I want to talk to my wife," he said to Mina's father, and the cameras flashed from all sides. My legs gave in and I collapsed to the floor. While airport security came running, everyone was whispering all around us. "Shame, what an embarrassment, he's married to her, what's happening?" whispers and confused, shocked faces around me as I tried to get up. A security gentleman came closer. "Sir, what is happening here? These people are going to study overseas, how can we left you?" said the guard to Amos. "She is not going anywhere," he said, pointing at me. The silence around us was so thick as I stood up. "Neo, you are not going anywhere," he tried to grab me, but Mina's father stepped in front to me again. "Tell them how you married a child, Amos. Tell them how you locked her in your house. Tell the whole world what you were doing to this child in that house of yours. Amos. This child had to run away from you, just so she can have a dream, to go to school. What kind of a man are you? Mina's father was angry, definitely taking advantage of the media surrounding us. I was crying, publicly humiliated, embarrassed, but still standing behind this man that built a tower for me against Amos. The lady formed the organizing team came into the circle, looked at me, concerned, and spoke. "Hi Neo. I'm Cecilia, I hope you remember me." I nodded. "Do you want to go with this man?" she asked, looking at me. "No, I'm going to Cuba," I said, looking down, but still holding Mina's father's hand and shielding myself a little. "Sir, I am afraid she doesn't want to go with you. She is over 18, an adult, and she doesn't need anyone's permission to make this decision." She looked at me and winked a little. I felt relief as security help dragged Amos out of the airport. We then did our goodbyes and hugged the people we came with. I hugged Mina's father, who was emotional, and for a second I felt the warmth of a father, shaky memories of my own father. And they departed. We checked in and were escorted to the private lounge, where we were given bags and clothing with the national flags embroidered in them, and our names and photos were taken, of the groups and organizers and the escorting teams. I was finally free. Speeches were rendered, and through all that, Cecilia kept a close eye at me. She kept a professional demeanor, but I felt safe and protected. I sat next to the window, looked out of the window as the flight took off. I was free. Leaving everything behind, I didn't even have a picture of my family or my siblings. For the first time in a very long time, I prayed, thanking God for everything, for freeing me, for giving me this opportunity. Promising to do the best I could. Praying that He protects my brothers, my parents, forgive my parents for what they did, heal me, thanking Him for Principal Kaloti. Thanking Him for Mina and her family. For Mina's father who protected me. I had a bright future because of those people. Tears fell from my eyes, and the lady sitting next to me gave me a tissue and rubbed my shoulder. We didn't know each other, but everyone knew my story. From the drama that incurred at the airport. I turned to her. "Thanks for not judging me." She looked at me. "I'm Nothendo Mabina. I'm Neo Maisha. We met before." I smiled with teary eyes. Nothendo and I became best friends from the 24-hour flight, through the 7 years of studying and the life after. On the flight we spoke about what we were looking forward to. She spoke about her family, the things she likes. How happy she was going overseas, to start afresh, how she never had a boyfriend and thinks boys are a waste of time. We laughed and I didn't say much about myself, but how the future was bright and my best friend went to study at University of the North. How we planned to go together, but things changed, and how lucky I was to be here in the moment. It was the beginning of a new life. The future was bright.
If you enjoyed Neo's story, please like and subscribe to my channel. Please leave a comment and give me courage for the next story.